Today's learning target is I can identify and use properties of addition and multiplication. Today we're going to look at different properties. And properties, when we're talking algebra, properties are statements that are true for any number. So the first one we're going to look at is the commutative property right here. The commutative property deals with addition and multiplication. And so what it means is the order that the numbers are added or multiplied doesn't change the sum or product. So it doesn't change the answer to the addition or multiplication problem. Okay, so they give you an example here. It says A plus B is the same as or equals B plus A. Okay, or in multiplying, A times B is going to be the same as B times A. It doesn't matter the order. And then here are examples of what that looks like. So you could take 6 plus 9, or you could take 9 plus 6, and either way it's going to equal 15. Doesn't matter in what order. Same holds true for multiplication. Okay, if you do 4 times 7, you're going to get 28. That's the same as 7 times 4. It's 28. So any two numbers, when you add or multiply, or three numbers or four numbers, it doesn't matter how many numbers you have, but you can add or multiply them in any order, and you'll get the same answer. I could take 1 times 3 times 5, or I could take 5 times 1 times 3, or I could take 3 times 5 times 1. Okay, it's the same numbers, and if I'm multiplying or if I'm adding, I'm going to get the same answer. The associative property of multiplication and addition says that the order in which the numbers are grouped when added or multiplied doesn't change the sum or the product. So it doesn't change the answer to the addition or multiplication problem. Okay, so here's how they would show that in symbols. It says, so for any three numbers, so when they say A, B, or C, any three numbers, you can group them in whatever order. You could add the A and B first, and then add C, or if you group them differently, let's say you group them B and C, so that you're going to solve that problem first, and then add A, it's not going to change the answer. It's going to be the same. Okay? Same holds true in multiplication. So if you've got three numbers, the way that you group them, like this, does not change the answer. It's going to be the same. Okay? So you could group the first two together. You could multiply those first and then times the third number. That would be the same as if you times the back two numbers and then times it by the first one. So here they've given you some examples of what it looks like. So here in this addition problem, okay, it says 3 plus 6 plus 1. Okay, now if I group them and do this first, I get 9, and then I add the 1 there, and that's going to equal 10. So that's going to be the same as if I grouped the back two numbers first. 6 plus 1 is 7, plus 3 is 10. I kind of made a mess out of that, but here I'll erase it there so you can kind of see what that looks like. So that's the same. And the same holds true with the multiplication here. Okay, depending on which way you group them, it's not going to change your answer. Okay, so here I do the 5 times the 9 first. I get 45. Times 2 is 90. And here if I take 9 times 2 first, and that gives me 18 times 5 equals 90. Now the reason this property is helpful is it's telling you there might be an easier problem to multiply. Like for example, for me, the way that it's done here is easier than the way it's done here. But either way, I'm going to get the same answer. So let's take a look and see if the associative property can be used with division. So associative property says I can group in any order, and I'm going to get the same answer. So if I'm going to show this here, I'm going to show my work here. Let's see, I'm going to start with the grouping. 27 divided by 9 equals 3. Okay, divided by 3. And 3 divided by 3 equals 1. Now let's see if that is going to be equal to the other side here. So I'm going to do this grouping first. 9 divided by 3 is 3. Okay, and then I get 27 divided by 3. Okay, and that equals 9. Alright, so in this case, here's how I show that. I do the equal sign with a slash through it. It means not equal. So this right here is what I call a counterexample. And a counterexample shows that a statement's not true. The identity property for addition and multiplication just says that in multiplication, when we multiply any number by 1, so when we take any number and times that by 1, you're always going to get that number. Okay, so I could take 7 times 1, and that's going to equal 7. I could take 130 times 1, and that's going to equal 130. Okay, the identity property for addition says that, it's kind of a sloppy plus sign, sorry, says that any number when added to 0 is going to equal that number. So if I took 13 and I add 0, it's going to be 13. Okay, so any number plus 0 is going to equal that number. Okay, if I took 150 plus 0, that's going to equal 150. So I think of it identity, it's like identical. So when you, in multiplying there, your answer is going to be identical or the same when you multiply by 1. In addition, okay, your answer is going to be identical, identical, when you add 0 to something. So let's take a look here. Name the property that's shown by each statement. So when I look at 2a here, I see that d plus 0 is going to equal d. Well, so I think back and I think to myself, okay, this is identical. Identical is the identity property. So I would label it as identity, and I'm also going to put that that's addition. So I just do just like that. 2b is going to be exactly the same. It's identity, but this one is multiplication. So I would show it like that. 2c here is, as I look at this, I see that all they're doing between these two is showing that they're grouping in a different order, and that they're saying this will be the same. So I know this will be the associative property, and I see it's working with addition, so I just make sure I put that. And 2d, I can see that they are just multiplying in different order on the two sides. So that's the commutative property, and it's multiplication. So I'm just going to do it like that. And I'm okay if you abbreviate in your assignment today. So when asked to simplify each expression, I'm just going to take the properties that I know and use them to help me simplify. So I know that I can multiply in any order. So instead of multiplying 10 times z, I'm going to take 10 times 12, which I know equals 120 times z. Okay, so another way to write that would just be 120z. And I put a line through the z like that, and you'll often see that, so that it doesn't get confused with a 2. Okay, so there I've simplified it. In this next one here, I know that adding, okay, I can add in any order. I could add this and this together, and that would give me 28 plus, I'm left with p, so there I've simplified it.